चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे आनन्दमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे आनन्दमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे सत्यमयी परमे सत्यमयी परमे सत्यं ज्ञानं सत्यं ज्ञानं ज्योति अरविन्द सत्यं ज्ञानं सत्यं ज्ञानं ज्योति अरविन्द सत्यं ज्ञानं सत्यं ज्ञानं ज्योति अरविन्द ज्योति अरविन्द So all of us would have more or less had this experience where suppose we have to do something and we feel that I just won't be able to do it. I don't have the equipment to do it. But somehow when it's done, it happens so well that you ask yourself, how did it happen? I didn't have the equipment, I couldn't do. How did I do it? We've all had this experience, right? So, Sri Aurobindo writes that it's not the equipped who are called, but those who are called get the equipment. It's such a beautiful thing, no? He says it's not that if mother wants you to do a certain work, you have the equipment from the beginning. But if you're called with all your weaknesses, she'll give you the equipment to do it. And so also when sometimes you're in a sort of spot where you feel very dark, very low, and you feel you've really fallen, that time also when it gets resolved, you look back and think, how did it happen? I thought I'd never get out of it, and I got out of it in the most unimaginable way. So keep these contexts in mind. I'm going to play you a song by Josh Groban called You Raise Me Up. On the PDF you have the words if you want to follow the words, but otherwise just pay attention to the words carefully. If you're on the Savitri group, Bijal has posted the PDF, which you're supposed to download before you come, because I don't know if you'll have the net here to download it. Oh, I don't know if we'll have the net here to be able to play it. Perhaps not. So I'll post it on the group right now. Let's just go through the words. The words are, when I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. So this is of course us telling the divine. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders, and really there's never a time when we are not on the shoulders of that one, right? Because that one is us. Even when we feel we are alone and we have no one, we are always propped on the shoulders. So I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. I thought I could reach only here, but when I'm propped up on your shoulders, I can reach all the way there. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. It's a beautiful song. I'll post it on the group. You can hear it. So, there was a lovely story Yogi Ram Surat Kumar used to tell his disciples. He said there were once some bluebirds. Of course, it's a metaphorical story. Don't take it literally, but it has a very powerful message. He said once there were these bluebirds, and they had laid with great trouble these eggs near the sea, on rocks near the sea. And the ocean gave out big waves and swept the eggs away. The bluebirds were crestfallen and they really loved their eggs. So they said, we must get the eggs back from the ocean. How do we do that? The ocean would have taken them and put them anywhere at the bottom. So they said, we'll bit by bit take drops of water from the ocean and pluck it out. We'll empty the ocean so that we find our eggs. Now, at one level, it's a stupid thing to do, but at one level, see what it led to. So they kept doing that. They kept taking water in their beaks, throwing it out. All their friends came and told them, this is a really stupid thing to do. The eggs are gone. Let what's gone be gone. Why don't you just stop this and be happy and carry on with your life? So the bluebird said, never. We must get our eggs back. So this went on for months and months and months, and of course the ocean was as it was, nowhere near being emptied. So one day a Mahatma came, and the bluebirds went to the Mahatma for his blessings, that please bless us so that we succeed in our mission. So the Mahatma also said, but what you're doing is very stupid. Why don't you stop this silly attempt and get back to what you're supposed to do? So the bird said, we are very disappointed in you. We thought you were a great man. You would reward our efforts with your blessings. But if you're not going to bless us, we'll anyway carry on with our work. Even if we die doing this, we'll keep trying to empty the ocean till our last breath. And they went back to what they were doing. Now the Mahatma broke into a huge smile when he saw this. And he put his hand into the ocean and pulled out the eggs and gave it to the birds. So what this story is really saying is a very beautiful message. The eggs are maybe symbolic of our quest, whatever it is, maybe a spiritual quest. Let's say here it's a spiritual quest. And very often the world, our logical mind will tell us, what a silly thing to do. Just relax and have fun. Why are you chasing after the impossible? Where is God going to come to you? Where are things so great going to happen to you? But if we are sincere, we'll never give up our quest like the bluebirds. And finally, the goal is never going to come to us through our personal effort. Throwing the water out drop by drop is personal effort. At one level it's impractical, but that personal effort makes us sincere and receptive enough, so then there's a hand of grace which sweeps down and does whatever that needs to be done. So whatever little effort we make, whether it's Nam Jap, whether it's one little ritual, whatever, and the world will tell us, now why are you doing this? Why can't you be normal? That's the thing people on the spiritual path will often hear, no? Why can't you just be normal? Why are you doing all this? But we don't have to listen to them. We have to do, Sri Aurobindo gave Dilip Kumar Roy such a beautiful mantra. He said, when it comes to God and spirituality, say, have it I must and have it I will, just like the bluebirds. And in his last few days, if you read Dilip Kumar Roy's, how beautiful his last passing on was, though he was physically very sick, but so much peace. And he said, I can hear the flute all the time. I'm in such bliss. And I never forgot my Gurudev's words, have it I must and have it I will. And I'm getting it. I'm breathing my last and all I can hear is the flute, and I'm in that kind of peace. And though he had 13 injections a day, those days he was taking, anyone who went around him felt that peace. So he did get it. The hand of grace had swept down and given him what he wanted. So, now this passage is from a beautiful book, Pilgrim of the Stars, by Dilip Kumar Roy and Indira Devi. So this is from a chapter where they had the good fortune of meeting Papa Ramdas, and this is a passage from there. So Papa said, that is Papa Ramdas told him in dialogue, there Ramdas was in a cave living on but one meal a day. He went out in the morning to beg and came back to boil a little pot of rice, just rice, which he shared with the squirrels who were his only companions in the cave. One day somebody suggested Ramdas pay homage to Raman Maharishi, the saint of saints, because Ramdas was meditating in a cave in Tiruvannamalai and Ramana was right there. Ramdas instantly agreed and went straight to where the Maharishi was staying. Ramdas prostrated himself before the Maharishi and said he had come only for the great saint's blessing. The Maharishi looked at Ramdas so compassionately that he felt a thrill of joy and understood that he had won the boon he had come for. He said nothing more and went back to his solitary cave, where he went on repeating the name in an ecstasy of longing, when lo, suddenly his Lord Ram, that is Murlidhar Krishna, appeared before him and danced and danced. It was a maddening dance accompanied by his flute. So Papa Ramdas was like that bluebird, the small a simple practice like Nam Jap, which in the spiritual hierarchy is considered a very basic practice. But just doing that, and look at the sweep of grace and what he witnessed. Did you see him with closed eyes or open eye? That is Dilip Kumar Roy interjected. With open eyes, as Ramdas is seeing you, Papa answered. But it was not this momentary vision that Ramdas's heart had craved. He knew that a vision like this was not going to last, and that when the Lord would vanish, Ramdas would have to revert to his native darkness. So he prayed for the great darshan, the vision of visions, which comes to stay forever, so there is no more parting. In a word, Ramdas yearned only to see Ram always in everything. Nothing less would satisfy Ramdas. He paused and then resumed with a beatific smile, and it came one morning apocalyptically, when lo, the entire landscape changed. All was Ram, nothing but Ram. Wherever Ramdas looked, everything was ensouled by Ram, vivid, marvelous, rapturous. The trees, the shrubs, the ants, the cats, the dogs, even inanimate things pulsated with the throbbing presence of the one Ram. And Ramdas danced in joy like a boy who had been given a lovely present can't help breaking out into a dance. And so it was with Ramdas. He danced for joy and rushed at a tree, which he embraced because it was not a tree but Ram himself. A man was passing by. Ramdas ran towards him and embraced him, calling out, "Ram, oh Ram." The man got scared and bolted, but Ramdas gave him a chase and dragged him back to his cave. The man noted that Ramdas had not a tooth in his head. Ramdas, if you see his pictures, he doesn't have teeth, and so felt a little assured, at least the loony would not be able to bite him. He laughed and he swelled the chorus. And then I asked, after the laughter had subsided, the bliss and joy came to be permanent, like a torrent rushing downhill, till it finds a placid level of limpid, purling stream. In this experience, you can never be cut off from the consciousness of being one with the one who has become all, in which you feel you are one with all because you have perceived that all is He, the one without a second. So, just an incident to show that the story about the bluebirds is not just a story, it's a truth. And in small ways, we've all experienced it, right? We make small efforts and suddenly there's so much grace. So, it didn't happen by our personal effort, but our personal effort created conditions for the grace to act. So now from Synthesis of Yoga, there is behind all this life the look of an eternal being upon its multitudinous becomings. There is around and everywhere in it the envelopment and penetration of a manifestation in time by an unmanifest, timeless, eternal. So Sri Aurobindo is assuring us that behind all this life, there is someone watching. There is the look of an eternal being on his own multitudinous becomings. All of us are becomings of that one being. Mother never used to like to speak about God and His creation. She said, I'd rather talk about it as God and His becoming, because God hasn't created us separate from Him. God has become each one of us. And after becoming us, He doesn't leave us to our fate. In the realm of being, the being is constantly looking upon His multitudinous becomings. There is behind all this life the look of an eternal being upon its multitudinous becomings. There is around and everywhere in it the envelopment and penetration of a manifestation in time by an unmanifested, timeless, eternal. But this knowledge is valueless for yoga if it is only an intellectual and metaphysical notion void of life and barren of consequence. A mental realization alone cannot be sufficient for the speaker. For what yoga searches after is not truth of thought alone or truth of mind alone, but the dynamic truth of a living and revealing spiritual experience. So, to know this intellectually is not enough. We have to work so that, like Papa Ramdas, it becomes in whatever capacity a living experience for us. Then we live without fear. There's that beautiful mantra, na? Etad Amritam one who knows his eternal being, Amrit is eternal, Abhayam, that one is fearless, Etad Brahma. When we know ourselves as the eternal Brahma, we can't have a fear of everything, because it's like fearing ourselves. Everything is really us. So, for what yoga searches after is not truth of thought alone or truth of mind alone, but the dynamic truth of a living and revealing spiritual experience. There must awake in us a constant indwelling and enveloping nearness. This is again from the Upanishad. We did this mantra a few classes back. Naina kinchan anavritam. There's not a particle in existence not surrounded by that presence. Anavritam. Avritam is surrounded. Anavritam is not surrounded. Naina kinchan asamvritam. There's not a particle in existence not penetrated by it. So it surrounds everything and it fills everything. So there must awake in us a constant indwelling and enveloping nearness, a vivid perception, a close feeling and communion, a concrete sense and contact of a true and infinite presence always and everywhere. The presence must remain with us as the living, pervading reality in which we and all things exist and move and act, and we must feel it always and everywhere, concrete, visible, inhabiting all things. It must be patent to us as their true self, tangible as their imperishable essence. That presence in everyone should be visible to us as their true self. So when we see a person behaving badly with us, we should remember that, oh, this is actually mother who has caught the temporary disease of the virus of the ego, because a person behaves like that only when sort of identified with the ego, but the ego is not the real self. Like the virus which we cough from is not ourselves. No, it's not our normal state. It's the virus that's making us cough. So it's the virus of the ego that has caught hold of the person and is making the person behave like that. But behind that, that person is that self. And I always quote this beautiful saying of the mother that you deal with the most toxic people anchored in your highest. The highest in those people is obliged to come forward and interact with you. So if we forget that they are also God and our ego tangos with their ego, there's really no end to it, right? But if we remember we are that essence and they are also that essence, and that essence is temporarily afflicted by the ego, but the ego is very small compared to the essence that is holding the person. So, and we have faith in that presence in ourselves and that presence in that person, somehow we are not so affected. We, like Papa Ramdas, so beautifully, there's a story, quite a wonderful person he was. He said once he was courted by some Maharajas who were his devotee, and they had a satsang with him where he was felicitated in a palace, etc. And then he was put on a train, and the Maharaja wanted to buy him the best tickets on the train, but Ramdas wouldn't accept it. He said, I will only go in economy and without any money. So Papa Ramdas got into a train, and it was filled with rowdies who got irritated seeing him in his sadhu vastra, and they started abusing him, and more people came. They pushed him off the berth. He sat on the floor, and when he wasn't reacting to them, they were getting more and more angry, so they started kicking him in the butt. And Papa Ramdas was just with Krishna, and with tears in his eyes he told Krishna, what a leela you are playing with me. Yesterday you had kings felicitating me, And today you have me being abused and kicked about, but I have no complaints. It's your Leela. You can do whatever you like with me. So he wasn't really bothered by the appreciation of the kings nor the criticism of the ignorant people, because he wasn't getting his happiness from the felicitation of the king, and nor could the bad behavior of these people make him unhappy. He was sourcing his happiness from his constant companionship with Krishna, and that's something available to all of us. Mother says the world will affect you to the extent that you belong to the world. To the extent to which you belong only to the divine, the world cannot affect you. Great power in those words. The more we are attached to the world, the more we feel things out there can make us happy, the more they have the power to make us unhappy. But if we are really anchored in the knowing that my happiness can only come from the mother, from the divine, and a simple thing like Nam Jap, if you have nothing to do, instead of engaging in useless thoughts, Om Shri Ma, Om Shri Aurobindo Ma, any mantra, just see as you keep repeating it, it creates such a different kind of atmosphere. In the beginning it may be mechanical, but after a while you'll really realize. Purandar Das has written a song where he says that to Vittala, that your name is like sugar and ghee. When I put it in my mouth, my whole being fills with sweetness. Now, if we've not experienced it, we'll find it funny, but it's not an exaggeration. If you really try it, there's such a sweetness in constantly repeating the name, provided you're invested in it. It shouldn't be that one part of you is doing it like a ritual and one part of you is thinking, he did this, I did that, blah, blah, blah. You're really giving yourself to the being whose name you're repeating. And to do that all the time when you don't need to think, it can be such a beautiful practice. That's the only practice, I mean, that looks like from the reading, that's the practice Ramdas did, and see what he received. I'm not saying all of us will receive that, but it's so much better to be with Nam Jap than to constantly think of all those useless thoughts we think about. So, to see, to feel, to sense, to contact in every way, and not merely to conceive the self and spirit here in all existences, and to feel with the same vividness in all existences in the self and spirit, is the fundamental experience which must englobe all other knowledge. Okay, so now we come, that ends the passage from Synthesis of Yoga. This is again taken from Pilgrims of the Stars by Dilip Kumar Roy and his daughter disciple Indira Devi. So this is again Papa Ramdas speaking. He was relating this incident to them. He said, the Guru can stimulate this, but the flame of your aspiration has to be fanned sleeplessly by your own effort and vigilance. But the paradox is that however you may try, you cannot make much headway if you believe you will attain by your own effort. So he's saying that you will never make headway if you believe you'll attain by your own effort. You cannot achieve these spiritual gains by your own effort. That effort leads duly to helplessness, the 0 hour, when his help comes. Sometimes we make all our effort and we feel we've not moved an inch ahead. We feel so helpless. That's when we drop and his grace comes and does everything for us. Gandhiji says it so beautifully that God is the toughest taskmaster I know. He tries me and tries me, but I've never known a single instant in my life when at the 11th hour he hasn't come to my rescue. When you just feel, oh my God, I can't take it, and then suddenly the miracle happens. But it doesn't have to be like that. That was Gandhiji's experience. Mother and Sri Aurobindo have given us the sunlit path. We don't have to wait until the 11th hour. From hour 1 we can walk with their hand on our head, and then we don't have to come to that 11th hour at all.
Yeah, when you speak of self-effort, the people who are self-effort oriented, they often quote the Gita where Krishna says that you can raise yourself only by yourself.
Yes. Yes.
In that verse he says that only you can do it.
Yes.
I'm just a witness, I can't do it.
Okay.
So how does that fit into this?
So,
they will always
so
when you say this.
yes, but look at what happened. What was the context the Gita was given in? Kurukshetra, right? Arjun, with his personal effort was pushing him towards not fighting, right? And then what did Krishna do? He showed him his Vishwaswarup and then bid Arjun to fight. And he was the one who moved the chariot. If you look at, we've done this many times in the Mahabharata. By his personal effort, Arjun would have been killed many times over. We all know that once when an arrow was going to go through Arjun's head, with his Yogmaya, Krishna made the whole chariot sink. So it went over his head. So many instances like that. So this is maybe to inspire us to make our personal effort, because it's not, we've just said personal effort is imperative. But we must know that we'll never achieve only through personal effort. We've all experienced this, those windows of grace that have opened up. Sometimes they come most unbidden. Sometimes you can meditate for hours and it's so dry. And sometimes you're just sitting with open eyes looking into space and it pours and pours and pours. We can't predict how grace comes, when it comes. But it definitely doesn't come only with our personal effort. But personal effort is necessary. So, the personal effort should come with a feeling that I'm making the effort to give myself to you, which is also quite an effort, because our whole conditioning is so strongly ego based from so many past lifetimes that I have to do, I have to achieve. That to decondition that is the effort. The effort is to unlearn, the effort is to give up effort sometimes. And the mantra and all is not out of a space of I'm doing this so I must get great spiritual experiences. The mantra is so that I can constantly remember you. So that, like Purandar Das says, your name is literally like a sweetmeat in my mouth, and the sweetness spreads in my being throughout the day. In this path, there's no place for arrogance, ambition, I am great, I have divine intelligence. All that are the biggest blocks on the path, and they will actually keep the spiritual experiences away. All these great people, Papa Ramdas and all, they were like children, so innocent, so humble. That's when these huge spiritual gifts were given to them. They rarely will even see Ramana Maharishi, all of them, they were so humble. Look at Mother, Divine Mother, and her human personality, she was so humble. If anyone came into the room, she would do this to them, and some people got very affected. They told her, Mother, you please don't bow to us, we want to bow to you. But she says, you don't understand, when you come, I'm not seeing your outer form. I'm seeing the divine in you. You can't stop me from bowing to the divine in you. That was her level of humility. And we get little spiritual experience, we start feeling superior to people, etc. Then spiritual experiences will stop, because they don't come when you're not ready to receive them. So, question. Okay, so there was a context to this. Okay, there was a friend of Papa Ramdas who kept telling him, I have many spiritual questions and I'm coming to you to get the answers. And Papa Ramdas didn't want to get into spiritual gymnastics, so he kept pushing him away. But as he says, the more you try to fight off something, the more it comes. So this person was going to come to him next day. So he prayed to Ram that, look, I don't know, I have no wisdom, I have no knowledge, I have just your name, what am I going to answer to this person? So he said, at that moment, a question answer happened between me and Ram. And next day when this friend came, the friend asked the exact questions that had come out through his mouth to Ram. And this was the order of the questions. What is the result of self-surrender? Was the question the friend asked him, and the question he was made to ask Ram the night before. Answer, everlasting bliss. Question, how? When the human will is given up for the divine will, all responsibility of the instrument, the devotee, ceases, and the consciousness of the individual ego is merged in the divine consciousness. Then all his actions, thoughts and words emanate from the divine source, leaving him free from all doubt, desire and bondage. Question, how is it that you allow your child's mind to wander? Answer, all. All is myself, O child. Wherever your mind wanders, it wanders and rests in me. So last time we did this, no? Sri Aurobindo has written, wherever the mind is, the supermind is behind it. Remember, we did that in a talk. So, and in more the language of yoga, we know we are made up of 5 sheets. The Vigyanmay Kosh, the wisdom sheath, and the Manomay Kosh, the sheath of thought. And we said that the soul of the Manomay Kosha is the Vigyanmay Kosha. So the Vigyanmay Kosha knows all about the Manomay Kosha, but the Manomay Kosha is not conscious of the Vigyanmay Kosha. But that Vigyanmay Kosha, the supermind, is constantly supporting the mind from behind. So all the nonsense the mind goes through also, somewhere there's a control over it, somewhere there's a direction in it, because wherever the mind is, the supermind is behind.
Yeah, in that context you had said that the supermind is not the controller of the contents of the thought. It's the controller of the sequencing of the thought. That was the word you used, the thoughts.
No. I said something different. I said that it's not that the content of your thought is wisdom content, because you think supermind content is wisdom content. The Manomay Kosha is functioning in ignorance, but the ignorance which is permitted by the all wisdom.
So can't the supermind control the content also? If it can control,
if it wants to, it can, but God is so powerful that he can choose to be weak when it serves its purposes. If it serves the purposes of ignorance for the mind to ramble on in its misery and pain, that pain will be used by the supreme diplomat to make our fall a means for a greater rise.
So the content of the thought will be decided by our past samskaras?
By our past samskaras, but somewhere controlled by the supermind behind.
And you gave the example of a person who has gone for dinner and he served soup which is cold. Now everything is a movement of God. You said that you won't get angry on him, but you will ask him to get it back with it. So if everything is a movement of God and if there is total surrender, why would I even want it to get replaced? Isn't the mother wanting me to have a cold soup that way?
No, the mother has given me wisdom to enjoy her creation, right? At least mother's path wasn't the path of asceticism. So she's not telling you to, if you have a choice to get hot soup and you've gone to a restaurant to enjoy soup and you want the mother in you to be served warm soup and you can get it without disturbing the environment, why should you be stupid and say mother wants me to have cold soup?
Because it came my way.
It came, but she's given me the choice of getting warm soup which she can enjoy through me, right? Whatever I'm serving myself, I'm serving her. Why should I give her cold soup if I have a choice?
No, that soup is a very small thing.
No,
When I
any
talk about a
bigger thing also, if I have a choice, see, it's a razor's edge. When good people do nothing, that's the biggest evil. So if you have a choice and you can exercise that choice out of peace, you must exercise it. So,
Sorry, but what if it's not peaceful? What if it's going to come across like whatever, like whether it's a soup or whether it's something else? And you said mothers said that to maybe act to get.
but first get peace inside you. Don't act out of anger. You act out of anger, you'll always regret mostly you'll regret what you've said. So as a rule, I never speak when I'm angry. I always, I remember one class in school, the children were behaving very badly, and it was one time I got very angry. I just put everything down and I said, I'm not teaching, give me 2 minutes. So the children were all looking, what happened, and they kept coming to me, Miss, we are very sorry. And I said, don't talk to me now, I'm angry. If I speak to you, I'll say things I'll regret. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll recover myself and I'll get back to you. And sure enough, in the 2 minutes I got back, I pointed out where they were going wrong. We had a constructive conversation. But otherwise, in classrooms, teachers have so much power, they can say anything. The children will just bichara hear. And we can say very damaging things in anger, no? Not only in a classroom, in any scenario that can happen. So as a rule, when you're angry, don't speak. Move out, connect with your higher self, get back your peace, and then when you speak from that peace, the exactly beautiful words will come on your tongue. So, how is it that you allow your child's mind to wander? All is myself, O child. Wherever your mind wanders, it wanders and rests in me. You cannot reason why it is so, but it is the one great truth. You cannot comprehend it, but you can realize it. Question: why should Ramdas not comprehend it, understand it? Answer: because it is beyond the range of the intellect. The Vedas call it anirvachaniya, ineffable, can't be worded. Question: then explain why should there be an intellect at all and what are its functions? Answer: the intellect exists to help you know that you do not know anything. So beautiful, no? The intellect exists to let you know that after all your knowings, you will come to a point where you know that you don't know anything. Now we come to synthesis of yoga. Page 92. But if this total conversion is to be done, there must be a consecration of our actions and outer movements as much as of our mind and heart to the divine. There must be accepted and progressively accomplished a surrender of our capacities of working into the hands of a greater power behind us, and our sense of being the doer and worker must disappear. So, there must be accepted and progressively accomplished a surrender of our capacities of working into the hands of a greater power behind us. So we must never not do something because we feel we are not equipped. If life calls upon us to do it, however ill-equipped we are, we should tell Mother, I'm going into it. I'm going to need your help, you be there. Something as simple as this. And you'll be amazed when she comes in, the kind of things that will blossom out of you. But if you do it with your personal effort, however capable you are, the results will be this. But if you surrender to her and invite her to come in, the results will be this.
But what is the tangible or practical way?
The practical, tangible thing, Avinash, is to first of all understand, really understand, that you're nothing without grace. That you can't even, mother, I'm not saying it, these are not my words, these are mother's words, that you can't even lift a finger without grace. Tomorrow, what's to stop you from getting a paralysis and not lifting the finger? We are not grateful to grace for every moment giving vision to our eyes, hearing to our ears, everything. For giving us our breath. Right now you're listening to me, you're not even paying attention to your breath, but grace is doing your breath for you, right? Grace is making your heart beat. Grace is making peristalsis happening in your intestines. It is, you're not doing anything. Yeah, but what intelligence is making the body function, Siddhi? You're a doctor. Can you really explain? Yeah, you'll tell me autonomous system and all that, but quantum biologists are actually at a total loss about how the body functions. For example, you get a cut, within instances the clotting thing starts. How do the blood cells rush there? They are not connected to neurons. What makes the healing blood cells rush there? There are so many questions which science can't answer. So we have to somewhere concede that there is a grace which is making everything happen in the body organically. But that same grace is happening, making everything happen in the extended body organically. And sometimes extra effort on our part comes in the way. We must make our effort, but align to her. So a simple practice is, before you start, remember mother. Tell her that, mother, I'm going to do this work. Please be with me. As much as possible, you do through me. And one part of your mind won't believe she'll actually listen to you. Tell that part of your mind to shut up. Make experiments with it. In the middle of the work, put your hand down, remember mother, and tell her, mother, I may not have felt you, but I've prayed to you, and you have only said every sincere prayer is answered. If there's been sincerity in my prayer, even if I couldn't feel you, you have to have been with me. And at the end of it, offer the work to her. And most important, the fruit of the work. In the Gita, Mother and Sri Aurobindo, they've written pages and pages about this karma phal parityagi. Renounce claim to the fruit, which is very difficult and it may not happen overnight. But we have to work on it. The moment the fruit comes of something very good and the world praises us, one way is to feel, wow, I'm so good. One way is to just feel grateful, mother, you're so good. And to feel grateful is actually a much more happy feeling than the arrogance of feeling I'm so good. And also, if the result is not to my liking, not to respond to it with I'm no good, but to respond to it with, mother, I've succeeded or failed as per your will. And if it is per your will, the world may call it failure, but in my inner knowing, let me know it's not failure. So there's that beautiful line from Savitri, his failure is not failure whom God leads. So I had a student in school who put this up on his study board. So whenever he wouldn't do well in tests, he would keep looking at it and trying to live it. Because if mother is leading me, my failure is not failure, it's just that moment. Man's splendid failure, some is victory. Another line from Savitri.
Isn't that the problem? Is like you do this and you start doing whatever work you're doing. But how do you know whether now it's you doing it or what?
No, Avinash, don't. That's where you have to put your intellect a little aside and make a leap of faith. You believe the mother speaks the truth. Do you or do you not? If she has said every sincere prayer is answered, and if you've sincerely asked her to be with you, make a leap of faith and just believe she's been with you. But ask her to be with you sincerely. And see, Avinash, there's a beautiful saying, faith is believing in what you don't yet see and the reward for faith is seeing it.
That's faith, but then faith comes as a proper knowing. It's tangible. It's
Faith
something
grows
tangible.
into knowing. It begins with faith, and then when you see it, you start knowing it. But
Belief begins with a, like, let's just assume this. Faith is a knowing from the beginning.
no,
It's
no.
not realized.
Babu, faith is not a knowing from the beginning. There's a quote, Shraddhavan jnanam labhyate. Those who have faith are rewarded with knowledge. So, faith is not faith if you know. If you know, how can you call it faith? Faith is believing in what you don't yet see. And it ripens into
But
knowledge.
faith, that's what you don't see it, but for you, it is nonetheless, despite not seeing it, a knowing that this
It's
thing
a
exists.
knowing in your deepest, but it may not be a knowing in your surface mind.
Fair enough. But you still know it, right?
You may
know
not know it with your surface mind, Avinash. You know it in your deepest. So that's why when you have moments of doubt, don't tango with them. Just make your mind quiet. When you're quiet, you'll know from within. You'll never know it with your surface mind. Mother says it's the nature of the surface mind to doubt. Faith is not only a faculty of the surface mind, but she says Kalyan Shraddha is the fabric of your inner being. If you just quieten your mind and go within, you already have this faith. Nobody has to
is
tell you.
the solution to just first get to that and then do things?
Get to what?
The faith.
No, Avinash, you have to keep your mind quiet. And when you're quiet, you'll already have a feeling of well-being. And you've experienced this. You're very low. A moment of grace happens. Nothing has changed outside. But suddenly you feel lit up and you feel, yeah, my life's good. Where did that come from? It didn't come from outside. No, it came from a knowing inside you.
Ideally, you want to keep that on, but it doesn't happening when you want
But you have to keep doing it. No, spirituality is this 4 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward. But you have to keep trying. You have no choice.
But what is the difference then if, say, you surrender for a situation, say you surrender, but then don't you also have to then take some self-effort?
Yeah, of course. Till a certain point, self-effort is indispensable. But self-effort with a constant drawing mother into the equation of the moment. Offering your efforts to her as an instrument for her doing.
You said, isn't the surrendering also happen in order for some fruit?
In order?
For a fruit. It may not be the result of the immediate work, but then you're also surrendering so that
Fine,
other comes
fine.
in, right?
See, God accepts everything as stages of work in progress. Fine, be honest with yourself, especially when you're young, ambition is strong, and that's also good. But when the fruit comes, at least offer it to mother. A good fruit offered to her with gratitude, a fruit not to your liking offered to her with resilience. At least that much you can do. It's all work in progress. We can't straight away jump there, and we can't deny the fact that we want results when we do. But we know that that's a stage. At some point, maybe 10 years later, I'll outgrow that stage.
But where does individualism come into this?
Meaning?
In the sense that up to a certain point the ego has to be there.
Yeah,
Only then can you let go.
yeah.
So how do you know at what point is the ego developed?
No, that's not for you to decide. While you're in the ego, be kind to it and function. Don't be harsh with your ego, because ego also needs kindness. It transforms maximally when you're kind and understanding to it. You don't have to beat it. And when the time is right, grace knows when the individualization is done and you're ready to surrender it. But your minuscule efforts to surrender, to open, to self-give, they are all part of the journey. So, there must be accepted and progressively accomplished a surrender of our capacities of working into the hands of a greater power behind us, and our sense of being the doer and worker must disappear. Maybe we have it yet, fine, but it's a stage. All must be given for a more direct use into the hands of the divine will, which is hidden by these frontal appearances. For by that permitting will alone is our action possible. A hidden power is the true Lord and overruling observer of our acts, and only He knows through all the ignorance and perversion and deformation brought in by the ego their entire sense and ultimate purpose. There must be effected a complete transformation of our limited and distorted egoistic life and works into the large and direct outpouring of a greater divine life, will and energy that now secretly supports us. This greater will and energy must be made conscious in us and master. No longer must it remain as now only a superconscious upholding and permitting force. There must be achieved an undistorted transmission through us of the all-wise purpose and process of a now hidden omniscient power and omnipotent knowledge, which will turn into its pure, unobstructed, happily consenting and participating channel of all our transmuted nature. This total consecration and surrender, this resultant entire transformation and free transmission make up the whole fundamental means and the ultimate aim of an integral karma yoga. For it compels a constant reference at each moment to the origin of all being and will and action. So beautiful, I got a quote today, so simple, Mother's words. All our life must be a prayer offered to the divine. It sounds so simple but so difficult to do if we say all our life. So here that's what it's saying, that for it compels a constant reference at each moment to the origin of all being and will and action. And there is at once an embracing and exceeding of all particular forms and appearances in that which is their cause and upholder. This way cannot go to its end without a seeing vivid and vital, as concrete in its way as physical sight of the works of the universal spirit everywhere. So see how Papa Ramdas, in the felicitation by a king, he said, "O Lord, this is your Leela." When he was being kicked around, "O Lord, this is your Leela." He didn't forget God in his highest moments, highest outer life moments. For him, they wouldn't be highest moments at all. And in his lowest outer life moments, both to him were equally the Leela of God. On its summits, it rises into a constant living and thinking and willing and acting in the presence of the supramental, the transcendent. Whatever we see and hear, whatever we touch and sense, all of which we are conscious, has to be known and felt by us as that which we worship and serve. All has to be turned into an image of the divinity, perceived as a dwelling place of His Godhead. So beautiful, this line, everything we see, hear, touch, sense is that which we adore. We have to remember that whatever, see Papa Ramdas, he saw a tree and he went and hugged it. You are Lord. He caught hold of a man on the street and to him he was Lord. So we can't say that this is limited only to him. This is something that as a potential exists in every human being. In the beginning, and when Mother was asked, what is the one practice fundamental to your yoga? And she said the constant remembrance that everything is God. That is fundamental to my yoga, that everything I'm seeing, touching, feeling is God. So whatever we see and hear, whatever we touch and sense, all of which we are conscious, has to be known and felt by us as that which we worship and serve. All has to be turned into an image of the divinity, perceived as a dwelling place of His Godhead, enveloped with the eternal omnipresence. Equality is the sign of this adoration. So again, Papa Ramdas's story, he was almost equal when the king felicitated him when the ruffians kicked him. To him, both were touches of God. So I know it's a long way, but little bit if we can maintain equality, when the world gives me its glad eye also, this is you, God. When the world criticizes me and plunges me down also, this is you, God. This is part of your Leela. I'll try to be equal to both. It's difficult, but we all take our baby steps, and remember what we said, our personal effort won't achieve it, but if there's sincerity in the baby steps we take, one fine day this samata, this equality will be given to us as a gift of grace. Equality is the sign of this adoration. It is the soul's ground on which true sacrifice and worship can be done. The Lord is there equally in all beings. We have to make no essential distinctions between ourselves and others, the wise and the ignorant. We see this in Gurudev's lives. Normally, if we look at our relationship with money, we feel money is ours. Mother has said it 100 times that money really belongs to the divine. If we have to spend on ourselves, we like something, we won't think twice. But if that money has to be spent on somebody else, immediately we'll start feeling a pinch. But look at how Sri Aurobindo lived in his Baroda days. Whatever salary he would get, he would put in an open bowl. And people would say, but sir, and he got a handsome salary, and he would just take from it whatever. People would say, but I mean, why are you doing that? You're tempting people. So many people come into your house. So he said, but this money is not mine. Whoever needs it can use it, and God will always provide for me. So he was somebody who was living that. Whatever he earned, he never thought it was his. And it's a great learning for us. I mean, we can't turn into Sri Aurobindo overnight, but look at how willingly we'll spend on ourselves, a little less willingly on family members. But even between spending on ourselves and family members, sometimes there's a big difference. And to spend on somebody outside the family, if somebody keeps asking me for charity or this one or that one, so many times we don't like it, we don't want to give. Because we say money, mother, this money is yours, but we are far from living it. We really live as if the money is ours. Just to recognize that.
But equal people is living in that consciousness. So we try to
So no, I agree with you. The Gita says follow your dharma. Even if there's somebody's superior dharma, that dharma is inferior for you than following your own dharma. But at least recognize it. See, when you see all this in you, you're kind to yourself. Yeah, it's my truth. I'm living in ignorance. This is the way I am. But Gurudev is my role model. Someday, after 10 years, 20 years, next birth. But someday, it's a consciousness I want to grow into. We are discussing it just so that we have role models before us. Maybe not, I'm not making a sweeping statement. It may not be true for you.
I'm not saying that.
Huh.
I'm just saying that as an experiment, I tried it, so I'm saying that. If you live with that feeling that, look, I don't have it, but whatever you
what is there not to agree? I'm 100% saying that.
So then when Avinash says you can't live in that consciousness.
No, Babu, he can't live in that consciousness. He's not saying for all human beings. He's talking about himself and maybe many of us here.
So I'm not saying that we can, at least I'm talking about myself.
That's all we can do. We can only talk about ourselves.
But a certain surrender and a certain faith works.
Of course, at different levels, each of us are on a different learning evolution curve, no? A different point on our evolution curve. So, equality is the sign of this adoration. It's the soul's ground on which true sacrifice and worship can be done. The Lord is there equally in all beings. We have to make no essential distinctions between ourselves and others. The wise and the ignorant, friend and enemy, man and animal, the saint and the sinner. We must hate none, despise none, be repelled by none. For in all we have to see the one disguised or manifested at his pleasure. He is a little revealed in one, or more revealed in another, or concealed and wholly distorted in others, according to his will and his knowledge of what is best for that which he intends to become, in form, in them. So beautiful. He's saying everyone is God. In some, he's a little more revealed. In Papa Ramdas, all the sages very much revealed. And the person I dislike, less revealed, but he's still there in them. He is a little revealed in one, or more revealed in another, or concealed and wholly distorted in others, according to his will and his knowledge of what is best for that which he intends to become, in form, in them, and to do in works in their nature. All is our self, one self that has taken many shapes. Now we come to Savitri, page 531. A secret soul behind, supporting all, is master and witness of our ignorant life. A secret soul behind, this is what we read. There is a look of an infinite being upon his multitudinous becomings. Synthesis in yoga we just read. Savitri speaking the same thing. A secret soul behind, supporting all, is master and witness of our ignorant life, admits the person's look and nature's role. But once the hidden doors are flung apart, then the veiled king steps out in nature's front. Veiled king is the secret soul behind. Once our doors are flung open, once we have that moment of receptivity, the veiled king steps out in nature's front. A light comes down into the ignorance. Its heavy, painful knot loosens its grasp. The mind becomes a mastered instrument. Right now, the mind is a very jarring instrument. Even if there's a genius who's playing and the piano is broken, the genius will somehow make the music the best it can be, but it won't be as beautiful if the piano is well tuned. So if the instrument that we are is well tuned, then Mother can do her magic through us. The mind becomes a mastered instrument, and life a hue and figure of the soul. So beautiful. Life becomes a color of the soul, a hue of the soul. All happily grows towards knowledge and towards bliss. A divine puissance power then takes nature's place and pushes the movements of our body and mind. Possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot. Despot is a tyrant. I love these two words, beloved despot. The Mother is called the beloved tyrant because However much we rebel, however much we say, I won't do this, if it's her will that we should do this, she'll find her way to make us eat our words, and we'll end up doing only what she wants us to do. And thank God for that. So she's called the beloved despot. The beloved despot of our thoughts and acts, she streams into us with her unbound force. Into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. An inner law of beauty shapes our lives. Our words become the natural speech of truth. Each thought is a ripple on a sea of light. Then sin and virtue leave the cosmic lists. They struggle no more in our delivered hearts. Our acts chime with God's simple, natural good, or serve the rule of a supernal right. So we'll just read few lines of this without explanation. A secret soul behind supporting all is master and witness of our ignorant life, admits the person's look and nature's role. But once the hidden doors are flung apart, then the veiled king steps out in nature's front. A light comes down into the ignorance. Its heavy, painful knot loosens its grasp. The mind becomes a mastered instrument, and life a hue and figure of the soul. All happily grows towards knowledge and towards bliss. A divine puissance then takes nature's place and pushes the movements of our body and mind. Possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot of our thoughts and acts, she streams into us with her unbound force. Into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. An inner law of beauty shapes our lives. Our words become the natural speech of truth. Each thought is a ripple on a sea of light. Then sin and virtue leave the cosmic lists. They struggle no more in our delivered hearts. Our acts chime with God's simple natural good, or serve the rule of a supernal right. Last passage, it's from one of my favorite books, A Captive of Her Love by Janina. So Janina, for those of you who don't know, came from Poland during Mother's time. She suffered a lot of hardship on foot, etc., and finally came to Pondicherry, where she met the Mother. She's written a beautiful book. If you don't have it, do pick it up. It's available. It's just mind-blowingly beautiful. So this book is an account of Janina's interactions with the Mother when she was in her body. Janina says, "Something must have happened in my being, as there was never such a glorious happiness in me as today. I do not want anything from her, her with a capital H. I just give myself and love her. And so I shall go to her this evening," because Mother was available to her in her body, to her as the universal vibration who acts everywhere and is everything. "I had a very bad pain in my ear," Janina says. "The pain has been going on for 2 weeks. But since the day she, the Mother, touched my body with her fingers, I said that there can be no compromise, and that she is the only master in this body of mine." So yesterday there was a kind of climax And I knew the pain itself was she too, and her supreme love working in me. When we say equality comes from seeing the divine in everything, imagine Janina's consciousness. Your pain can be quite terrible. And she remembered that mother is in this pain also. I felt a great happiness. I implored her that she help me to persevere. I knew it would not be right to ask for the pain to disappear. That's what we all do, no? We pray to her for the pain to go away. But that's where we are, and it's fine. We have to be natural in how we interact with her. We can't suddenly jump to Janina's level, but we hear all this to hold up to ourselves as a role model for the future. All this that was going on in the afternoon, and I went to the synthesis lesson and implored her all the time. So imagine mother, imagine the grace these people had. Mother would be sitting and teaching them passages from synthesis of yoga, and the Supreme Mother speaking about the mother. I mean, can you imagine what they were experiencing in those days? And implored her all the time while we were waiting for her. And then she came and stopped at the door and looked at me. I sit on the last bench. She just encouraged me to go on, and the pain did not stop then. But she took it away from me one after 1 hour and allowed me to do my physical exercises without pain. Since then, a great nearness and intimacy have been created, because she is in me and I in her. This is how I begin to realize it. She is also the one who feels the pain in me, who moves my limbs, talks, thinks and feels. And this she does in every human being. She is the one who feels pain in us, who moves in our limbs, talks, thinks and feels. So slowly she goes on widening my consciousness. Sometimes I'm so thankful that I would like to give her something great and wonderful. And a few days ago I felt that I can give her all my world. Why not? If the time comes when all the world is in me, why should I not, in my deepest gratitude, do it? So it's so beautiful that the more mother poured herself into Janina, the more it came to Janina to give herself to the mother. And the more she gave herself to the mother, the more the mother poured. So I think I was telling you even last time recently when I took a group of children to Pondicherry, there was this one boy who was going through some stuff in his life, and he found something hugely shifted in him by the end of the 4 days. So the last day when we went to the Samadhi, he came out and he said, "Miss, I have a question." I said, "What?" So he said, "Miss, is it bad to get something when you're actually wanting to give the mother?" So I said, "What do you mean?" So he said, "I was feeling so grateful when I bowed my head to the Samadhi that I was really thanking her, thanking them. And instead of me thanking them, I felt so much peace coming into me and coming into me and coming into me that I felt guilty that I wanted to thank her, I wanted to give her something, and instead she's pouring into me." But that's how it works. Whatever we genuinely give to her, and not giving it to her because of this story that if I give her I'll get, not like that. He gave it out of utter innocence and he received, and that's how it is for each one of us always. Any questions, anything to share? If not, then we'll just sit quietly and assimilate. In life, whenever we are confronted with a task that seems beyond our capacity, it's good to remember what Mother says. It's not the equipped who are called, but the ones who are called to do something are given the equipment. And if we look back on our lives, we see the truth of this. Very often something landed on my lap which I felt, oh, how will I do this? But somehow I kept taking my baby steps and I did it perhaps beyond my expectations. So also, when things go wrong and I feel I'll be doomed, something happens and I'm lifted out of the dark moment in ways I can't imagine. Gandhiji says it so beautifully that God is the toughest taskmaster I know. He tries me and tries me, but there's not a single instant in my life when at the 11th hour He has not come to my rescue. But when we are walking the sunlit path with the Mother, we don't have to wait for the 11th hour. She is with us from the first moment. So in the talk today, we explored this beautiful song, Sun, Raise Me Up, You Raise Me Up, by Josh Groban. The words are, you raise me up to stand on tallest mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. And there's never a time when we are not propped up on those invisible shoulders. Those shoulders are always carrying us, even in our dark moments. The moment is dark because we forget about those shoulders. But if we remember them, we can never feel weak. So this is our practice at every moment before we start our work, to invite Mother that I'm going to do my best, Mother, but you please be with me. To recognize that I'll only be the instrument. It's grace which really works through me. If the piano is broken and a master musician plays it, the music will be the best that it can be with that instrument. But if the instrument is fine-tuned and receptive to the master's touch, the best possible music pours through. And after doing the work, it's beautiful to thank Mother, and whatever the fruits come, in whatever way I can, whatever consciousness I have, even if I'm feeling flattered by the success, I talk to Mother. Mother, I'm feeling flattered. I'm offering you this flattered feeling. I'm offering you the fruit of success. It would have never happened without you. If I fail and the ego is dejected, I offer that dejection also to Mother. Talk to her like you talk to a friend. I'm feeling dejected. I'm offering you this dejection and the failure, and I want you to breathe belief into me. That line from Savitri, his failure is not failure whom God leads. If you are leading me, this momentary failure is not failure. Only you can make sense of this to my consciousness which is feeling dejected. Please do so in your own time. Just with that, fold your hands together in a namaste Take a long, slow inhalation. Breathe out with Om.